Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of Leading to a Higher Altitude. I am your host, Jacob Snyder, your current IFC Vice President of Public Relations. Today, my co-host is Jadyn Fulcher, Delta Chi.
Good to be back, Jacob.
Great to have you back. And we have a very special guest today, our great, all-knowing, lovely advisor of FSL, the one and only Nicholas Damiano. Nick, how are you?
Jacob and Jadyn, thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm really excited to dive into some good questions and unpack some things.
Let's get right into it. Nick, getting to know you, I've seen you have a lot of achievements in your office. Obviously, your bachelor's in music theory, is it?
Yeah, so actually it's a bachelor's in vocal performance.
Vocal performance, that's what it is. So you have that performance side of you, and you've told me before that you sang opera. So how did you go from singing opera and being involved with all the musicals to advising fraternity and sorority life?
Yeah, definitely. So I always love to share this story because I think the journey to becoming a fraternity and sorority advisor is always unique, right? There's not one path to do it. So I went to undergraduate at Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. Go Tars. And while I was a voice major, I was also a founding father of two fraternities. So my first one was Phi Mu Alpha, which is a music fraternity. I was a founding father of that. And then about 6 months later, I found out that they were rechartering Lambda Chi Alpha at Rollins. They were there for about 50 to 60 years, then poofed away. And the opportunity stood right in front of my face. I come from a long line of Lambda Chi's in my family. My older brother, my late uncle, and my grandfather. So it kind of felt right. So I took the leap and I became a founding father of a second chapter. And the rest was history. I never planned on going into fraternity sorority life, even student affairs. So after Rollins, I went all the way to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, go Badgers, where I got my first master's in vocal performance. Was having a steady career. I was loving it. It was a great time. My first year at Wisconsin, I actually worked for the Office of International Student Services as one of their front desk associates, and that taught me a lot. I think the biggest thing I learned is the importance of international students in American higher education and how much we need them. So while I worked there, I was doing my first master's again in vocal performance, and one day I found out that Fraternity and Sorority Life was on the floor above me where I was working in the red gym on campus. And I took a leap, walked upstairs to the, at the time, the director, Maggie Hayes, and I said, hey, this is who I am, here's my passion, and I saw that you're hiring a graduate assistant. It's funny, she never got back to me, and then I followed up again, and then I interviewed, and then I got it. So that's what led me to be a graduate assistant for the fraternity and sorority community for 3 years. About a year and a half into my first master's, I unfortunately was doing a summer show on contract, and I remember one of the performances about 8-9 shows in, during one of my solos, my voice just didn't feel right, and I felt something just go array. And long story short, I found out about 2.5 weeks later that I had a vocal polyp. And as a singer, that's mortifying. You know, usually that's your death note of you will never sing again. Unfortunately, there's a horrible image to vocal injuries, but it doesn't mean that your career's over. I was truly blessed that, funny enough, the ENT clinic at the UW-Madison Hospital had one of the top ENTs in the country, and I got my polyp removed, and I called it a voice lift because after that, something happened and my voice just came back 20 times stronger. And when I came back into singing full time after my surgery, one of my mentors in the field, Dr. Rupa Rahi, actually said to me, hey, do you have a plan B? And I said, well, not really. It's music or bust. And I'm doing this graduate assistantship for fun. And I remember in her office, she said to me, you should always have a plan B. And I knew where this was going. And she said, have you ever thought about student affairs? And I said, yes, a few people have told me to do, but I said no, music, music, music. And she convinced me. And about 6 to 7 months before I finished my first master's, I looked into some schools to apply to. So University of Michigan, University of Arizona, and it all boiled down to the school of education at Wisconsin. And I just thought it was some random school of education. I had no idea it was like top 5 in the country. So I thought I'd never get in. So I applied on a whim for fun and just to see. So it was a master's in educational leadership and policy analysis. And I got in. And I wanted to go down the route originally. So I actually never wanted to do fraternity and sorority life. I wanted to get this master's and then become a dean of student affairs at a school of music. Why? Because my school of music experience was really great, but unfortunately there were some staff and professors that weren't holistic supporters of the student experience. And I could really tell that a lot of us just weren't being supported as entire beings, right? And I wanted to become a dean of student affairs at a school of music to ensure that young singers and performers are taken care of. They're supported, they're heard, they're loved, right? As singers, your body is your instrument. If your body and mind are not as one, you can't perform, right? But after my first semester in educational leadership policy analysis, my mind was changed because I was also still working for Fraternity and Sorority Life, and I just fell in love with advising students. The reason why, 2 big reasons why I went from opera to Fraternity and Sorority Life. Number one, the performing world, as great as it is dependent on paycheck to paycheck, right? It's not a stable career. And I'm someone where I crave stability. I crave home, right? And secondly, there is nothing more empowering and special than seeing a young leader have that light bulb moment, or that young leader solve that issue, or that young leader have a breakthrough in their own identity development. And for me, that was much more intoxicating than music. And music is still my passion, right? Music is now something I'm in control of. It's no longer in control of me. So I still perform on the side full time, but at my time and at my pace. So I entered Fraternity and Sorority Life because in the end, I do believe that Fraternity and Sorority Life, when done healthily, correct, and equitable, is the most transformative experience a college student can have. And if I can give my students on this campus or any campus an experience that changes them, I'm all set.
That's awesome. I mean, that's pretty amazing, the path that you've taken throughout your life and trying to stick with music, but figuring out ways to still keep that a passion, but have a more stable career that you were looking for. I think that's pretty admirable that you really did your own thing, set your own path. But one burning question that I do have, kind of piggybacking off of that, is when will the Nicholas Alexander Damiano take the stage again?
That's a great question. And a lot of students and even some of my colleagues here at Riddle ask that. So I actually still do perform. I just do not share it with many people because for me, it is my safe haven, right? It is my complete separation from my work life. However, in the next year or two, I do plan on really bouncing back into performing more. And let's just say in the next year, there could be a stage that I'm on that people can come see. So more to come on that.
Heck yeah. I feel like that'd be something a lot of us would want to see.
Yeah, I'm definitely counting the days down for that moment. I will be in the front row cheering him on. Yeah, so I think I know the answer to this question. It's clearly because your students are amazing and you love us. But I just wanted to ask, what gets you out of bed every morning?
Yeah, so a few things. I will first say coffee. That's my most important thing. I have a whole ritual when I wake up. I make my coffee. I do some light reading, whether that's reading on higher education because you can never stop learning, or reading any kind of news, stuff like that. But coffee, number one. But what actually gets me out of my home into the work I do is, it's funny, everyone says it, but it is the students, right? It's changing lives. It's having tough conversations with love. It's helping students, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here. It's helping them define their leadership legacy, right? It is saying, when you leave this school, what are you going to be recalled for, right? How are people going to speak on your name? And my goal is to ensure that it's positive, it's inspiring, it's reflective. But it's the students. I mean, it really is the students that I really, boast that I'm convinced that I get to work with the best student leaders in all of America, right? I know every fraternity sorority advisor feels that way, but I know it, right? Because I get to actually experience it. But in the end, it is the students that get me up, motivate me, and they they inspire me to keep going.
Yeah, I'd like to agree. We are the best leaders in America.
And listen, I agree with that one.
So just kind of going off of that, I know the students definitely play a big part in helping you get out of bed. But with that, we do give you a lot of stress, I'm sure. So what helps you fall asleep at night dealing with these crazy kids?
Yeah. So I will share, I'm very big on routines. If you all know that, right? I'm all about systems and routines. So for me, when I prepare for bed, I'm very big on turning off all the lights in my home, completely off, turning the AC as low as they can go. And I'm very big on unplugging from reality, and I do that through TikTok. Honestly, one, it does keep me in the lingo, with all the youngins. It's a way for me just to completely unplug from reality and just get lost in humor, inspirational things, funny things, serious things. So I do a lot of TikTok. Now, what helps me fall asleep in correlation to my job is knowing that all my students are safe. Yes, there's over 600 of you. It's impossible to make sure that everyone's doing the correct thing at the correct time, but I feel good when I go to bed and I don't have a phone call or a text or a FaceTime of, we need help. That doesn't mean that I'm always there to take that call, but what helps me fall asleep at night is knowing that my students are safe. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I think that resonates with a lot of the leaders too. I mean, we, just speaking from my perspective, getting those kind of phone calls or having to even make those kind of phone calls, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel you on that one. Maybe not as, I don't understand as well as you do, but still kind of get it.
I think what's important too about those phone calls, right? Whether it's we're having an issue at an event or someone got hurt or even just I need someone to talk to, I'm always willing to take those calls, right? You never know what can happen after that call, right? So if I'm available, I will take that call. I understand from the student perspective that it is nerve-wracking to make that call, but in the end, what's worse that can happen? Someone knows, right? Someone's in the loop. Again, it's all about advocating for the student experience.
That's a very good point. All right, so on to the next one. I just want to know, what do you consider to be your biggest accomplishment?
Yeah, so this one, when I read these questions last night, when I got them, is tough because I feel that I've had so many accomplishments in my life, but in different ways: professional, personal, emotional, spiritual, right? Through many dimensions. If I had to share my biggest accomplishment, it's a series of them, but it's my biggest, is always doing the right thing regardless of what everyone says around me, right? And I've done that, and I do it every day, right? Regardless. I think in my life, I have been met with a lot of tough situations, tough moments, or split decision making, and I always do what I think is right, regardless of what everyone else thinks. I'm someone where I believe in a gut feeling, right? We have 3 brains. We have the gut, the heart, and the mind, right? And our goal is to get all 3 of those to speak at once. However, as a leader, I believe that my gut leads me. My gut is my lead brain, right? Not that I don't let my heart and my brain work as well, but it's my gut. If I feel like I need to make this decision for that reason, I'm going to make it. Again, regardless of what people think. And I think to me, that's my biggest accomplishment is you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in what you're going to do. If you do not, no one's going to follow you, right? A leader has to believe in what they're going to do. Otherwise, you're just leading a bunch of sheep off a cliff.
The blind leading the blind. I think that's something that we can all really aspire to do, is just let our gut lead. That's really what tells us the right thing to do. It's never the brain or the heart. It's always muddled. So yeah, all right,
100%.
Yeah, just to kind of touch on that, I think being a leader is that journey of training your gut to have those right feelings and wrong feelings at the correct times. And
Right.
that's why you're such a good leader, because you've had all of that experience that you can now share with us. But in order to do that, you have to make decisions on your own, and we see them working out. And I actually didn't know that about you, but it makes perfect sense.
And, Jacob, I think another thing too that I always say to you all and any students I work with, self-efficacy. We need to invest in young leaders in their self-efficacy, right? What are you going to do to make sure you are heard? What are you going to do to ensure that you get the right thing done? If you can't advocate and grow in yourself, again, I kind of go back to the whole, you're just leading a sheep off, you're leading a gaggle of sheep off a cliff, right? And in the end, you have to put not you first, but you have to put you first in your own mind, no one else.
Absolutely. All right. This next question is a little bit of a more light one, not really too deep. If you were to create your own utopia, what key principles or values would define it, and how would people live in this ideal world?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a few from my Lambda Chi Alpha values. They're very, very important to me. So one, service and stewardship are so important to me. Let's dive into service. You have to give back to things that have given to you, right? Service is the rent we pay to live on this earth, right? If we're not giving back to something that has given to us, what is the point of living, in my opinion, right? Service is also service of others. Doing things for people without expecting anything back. That's the secret to life, right? Making sure you're taking care of others, while at the same time taking care of yourself. Stewardship. You have to be a steward of who you are, what you believe in others, making sure you're supporting them. I think if it came to a utopia is, how are you as a steward going to show up and give to this community, right? Give to these people. Another one of my Lambda Kappa values is honor, right? I think what's important is, in my opinion, if you don't have honor to something or someone, you do not exist. You must have honor to something or someone. It's a belief, it's a feel, it's a moment, but you have to have something. Lastly, integrity. I think even though service and stewardship are the first two that always come to mind for Lambda Chi Alpha, integrity. That is how I lead as a human. I go back to what's my biggest accomplishment is doing the right thing. Integrity is what got me there. You have to do the right thing. If you're going to start a new society, integrity should always be in the middle. It should be community, common unity, everyone, common man, everyone, right? You also ask in it, how people live in this ideal world. Democracy, plain and simple. That's the secret to society. It would be a true democracy. Everyone has a say. Everyone has a vote. Everyone gets their voice heard. Right. I think that's what's so important when it comes to any community, whether it's a chapter of 10, a chapter of 70, a community of 1,000, a community of 5,000. Every voice should be heard. Right. We as humans, all we want in life is to be heard. And that's through democracy.
It's funny you describe this as your utopia, but I think a lot of these values and principles can be applied to our FSL community. I mean, we all hold each other accountable and have honor, integrity, and things of that nature. It's kind of just interesting to see the little connection there.
Another one too, Jacob, that I want to mention for values is our first one, loyalty. It's funny because I can sit here for months and just go on to every single value and what I think about it. Loyalty to me, like I say, integrity is at my core. Loyalty is even further in that, right? I'm someone where I have undying loyalty to anything I do. Brands, foods, people, organizations, right? You have to be loyal to yourself. Let's unpack that, right? Be loyal to yourself. Put yourself first in your own mind. Secondly, be loyal to those around you. Fraternities and sororities are so unique in that we all share one common thing. If I see another Lambda Chi Alpha who's 85 years old from the University of California, right? We are going to know the same exact ritual. It has not changed. I'm going to have loyalty to that man regardless of even knowing them, right? Because of the vows we took, of the oaths we took, of the lessons we learned in our ritual, right? So again, I think I just want to mention that one because I think loyalty is something that honestly, I would love to see more within fraternities and sororities everywhere. Have loyalty to your kin. You all took the same oaths and you all took the same beliefs. Do it. Simply do it, right? As I always say, I believe if we lived our rituals a little bit more every day, just a little bit more, we would have less strife in this world.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you can't not be loyal to your fraternity and then want to get something out of it. It's all based off of loyalty, and you get out what you put in. We've talked about it before on this podcast. Nobody's chapter would work if people weren't loyal.
Yeah, it's definitely sad to see. At least from my perspective, like I care very deeply about my ritual, and Nick, obviously you do too. And it's really sad to see and hear like some of these other chapters within even my fraternity or any other fraternity, they just don't. It's like they don't care. It's like they don't want to do that. They just want to have fun and get the social fun aspect out of fraternity sorority life, but they aren't getting the true meaning behind what it means to be a man or woman of those letters.
And I thoroughly believe one of the very few things that separates us from other student organizations is our ritual. I'll say it again. One of the very few things that separates us from other student orgs is our ritual. Truly. Otherwise, what's the point? Right? Then you're just a professional development club. Then you're just a social club, a art club, right? We have to dig more into these rituals and lessons. Even though they may not make sense to us now, I'm 31 and I'm still discovering parts about my ritual. And I've done it now over 40 times probably. I'm still discovering parts about my ritual that overwhelm me, that question me, that remind me, right? Again, we do it once a semester. I'm reminded every semester, okay, Nicholas, do this, do that, remember this. So in the end, point blank, one of the few things that separates us are these beautiful, beautiful words that are secret, right? That only so few people know. So I think we have to continue to honor those.
Continue to honor and also be proud of it. I mean, be proud that nobody else knows what you know. Be proud that you have different values than other people and live by those values, because that's what makes you different from other people in the real world. So yeah, just getting more out of our ritual is definitely something that everybody can work on, and it'll actually help improve everybody personally. All right, last kind of surface level question. If your life were a book, what would be the title of the current chapter, and what would the next chapter be about?
Definitely. So this one, when I read it, I was like, yep, I know it. So the current chapter would be reflection, and the next chapter would be forward. And I take forward out of my grad school, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Forward is one of our big logos, our big beliefs, right? Always forward, but just forward, exclamation point. So reflection. Right now, I'm in a very reflective part of my life. Whether it's as a professional, as a human, as an educator, a facilitator, a researcher, I just am so reflective of everything going on in our society, in the world, on our campus, right? And I found myself really diving more into reflection. Now, once I complete that reflection cycle, because I know that reflection goes in cycles. You have moments, you have days, you have weeks, you have months. And I feel that when I complete this cycle of reflection, my next chapter is forward. And for me, what that means is forward in every single way possible, right? With my career, with my personal life, with my research. You know, I've been saying for 3.5 years, I'm going to do this doctorate. I'm going to do this doctorate. I'm not going to sit and wait, right? I've put it off for so long because of, work and, my personal life. And, you know, as I say to you all, and I'm not going to say it to myself, pointing in the mirror, what am I waiting for, right? What am I waiting for to start this doctorate, right? Fear. But for me, it's the fear of the unknown. However, I have to remind myself my entire life has been unknown. I went to Rollins College never even thinking I'd make it out there with a degree. And I laughed at the fact that I got 2 graduate degrees because I would have never thought I'd do that out of fear, right? So I think what's important is when I get to this part of being forward, that I remind myself that no matter what, I have to put one foot in front of the other, period, regardless of where I'm at in my life. If we as people or society, right, if we do not move forward, the only thing we're doing is moving backwards. I thoroughly believe that idle does not exist. I think resting exists, right, at a red light, but idling does not exist. It's either you're going backwards, you're resting, or you're moving forward, right? You yourself are the only person in charge of which way you go.
That's such an important message for people in college. I mean, we're all at that, like, what's next kind of stage of we're gaining all this information throughout our 4 years here. And then you get to senior year and it's like, well, what now? Like, where do I work? Where do I apply? Who should I apply with? Like, what are the pros? What are the cons? And I think we can get caught up in that a little bit too much sometimes, where you just have to look at the bigger picture of I'm taking this next huge step in my life and get excited about it. And then once you get excited about it, there's almost nothing that anybody's going to say or do to you that's going to make you want to stop. Like, that excitement is what drives us throughout our lives.
I agree. And one thing that I want to share with everyone listening when they listen to this, I will share that I'm someone where I've been able to do both. Is I have grown in seeing both the small and the big picture, right? Sometimes people can only see one. I've really worked hard in seeing both. And when you, as a human, a young leader, a leader in your 50s, 60s, whatever, if you can balance seeing both, life is so much more easier, right? It doesn't mean that at times you're zooming into the small stuff, and it doesn't mean that at the other times you're zooming into the big stuff. But if you can find at the same time seeing both, you're going to be so much more successful as a human.
All right, Nick. That was great so far for the surface level questions. Are you ready to really unpack that?
I'm always ready to unpack things.
All right, well, let's get into the deep stuff here. All right, so I want you to describe a moment in your life, whether it be working here for the past 3 years at Embry-Riddle, or just overall, just in the, however, I don't know how old you are, the years that you've been on this earth. Just describe to me a moment when you had to make a quick decision, split decision that had a significant impact on your life.
Yeah, so I always like to joke and say that my age is young, right? So I'm young. I'm 31. I'm always very open about that. Yeah, so this one, when I read it last night, I will be very transparent, and I struggled because I, in my life, have had to make a lot of decisions that did change my life with large significance. Okay, here's one. So for me, it was my sophomore year of undergrad, and it was it was a fall day at Rollins. And that morning, I was waking up, got my breakfast in the campus center, went back to my dorm. I was in a single. And that afternoon, we had a performance of Morton Lawrence's Lux Eterna. And Morton Lawrence himself was actually at Rollins College. And this was with the Bach Festival Society, which was a professional group that I sang with. And I remember getting these calls in my text from my older brother, Joey. And he was like, hey, like, where are you? Like, what time is your concert? Where are tickets? And I'm like, that's kind of not like you to ask, right? My older brother, Joey, at the time was at UF going to school. And I was like, whatever. Here's the link. Go for it. I'm busy, right? And I'm walking. I get out of my elevator in my dorm, and again, it's a dorm full of all singles, right? And it's a very old dorm, Holt Hall, 11, but it's a very old dorm. And out of the corner of my eye, I always look at corners. I look through the lobby of my dorm, and we have a small sliver of a window at this door, and I see my brother Joey at the door, and I go, interesting. And I brought him in, and I said, hey, like, what are you doing here? Like, okay, like, you know where I live, whatever. And I was with one of my friends, Laura. I said, hey, Laura, like, I'll catch you at rehearsal. I think we were going to rehearsal for the day. But I said, I'll meet you there. He goes, hey, like, let's go upstairs real quick. I need to tell you something. So we're in the elevator, and I can just tell that there's something that he wants to say, but he is so scared to say it. Okay, well, interesting. And I'm thinking about, like, could it be this? Could it be that? Right? And we get into my room, and he shares with me that unfortunately the evening prior that my uncle JP took his life. And in that moment, I'm always open about it now, I screamed. I punched a wall. I threw up at some point, probably, because I was so confused. I wasn't hurt. I was confused. And all these things are going through my head. Could it be this? Could it be that? Why? Just why? I was just, oh my goodness. And I remember in that moment, I said to my brother, I'm going to drop out of college right now. I have to go home and take care of, my mom. Because that was her brother, who also happened to be my fraternity brother. But at that time, I wasn't a Lambda Chi yet. I didn't even know I was going to be, right? But it was rough. And I went home, and I did the hardest thing I ever did in my life when I was home. As a leader, I'm saying, even as a leader, the hardest thing I've done in my 31 years was tell my little sister what happened. And the shatter that I saw in her eyes and her heart, I saw her heart that night, is something I will never, ever forget. My mom didn't tell her, my stepdad, my brother, everyone was there. It was me. It was a lot. I'll be very transparent. It was a lot, but it took everything in that moment for me to straight up not go, all right, let me drop out of college. Let me take care of my family. I had to be the new, I had said to myself, I have to be the new Uncle JP. He's no longer here. Right. And for me, I was so ready to take that call. But after a few weeks, I went back to school. Right. And I remember speaking to my mom, and she said, honey, I know this is so fresh for you, but your uncle would never want you to leave something that you love so much. Rollins is your home. Music is your home. Phi Mu Alpha, is actually in the process of becoming a founding father, is my home. And my mother's the reason why, not me, y'all. My mother is the reason why I did not drop out of school. I did not give up. I did not take the easier route out. And I remember actually a defining moment. I still actually had the text message in my cell phone right now. After I was initiated into Phi Mu Alpha, which was our chartering / initiation, in December of that same semester, I texted a picture to his number, even though it didn't go through. And I just said, Uncle JP, this one's for you. I hope you're proud of me, and I still have that picture. And actually, the book I hold in that picture is in my office here at Riddle. It's our song book. And a lot of people ask about the ring I always wear on my right hand. It's a Phi Mu Alpha ring, and people go, "Why do you wear that ring so much? Like, why don't you have a Lambda Chi ring?" And I said, "It's because it's the last thing my uncle purchased for me before he left us." So the last thing he left for me was this ring. And for those who know, I've lost this ring over the past 11, 12 years. Oh God, several times. I lost it at the FSL meet and greet barbecue back in August this semester. And I found it. It was Izzy Hoare, John Scavo, right? And Sydney Smarsh helped me. I found it. I at one point lost it at a bar in Germany and found it at a different bar the next day. Somehow got there, right? But that is why I always wear this ring. I'll never get rid of it. Because it is a constant reminder to never give up, no matter how much stuff life throws at you.
Yeah, that's wow. that's that's something that nobody should ever have to experience. That's that's yeah. I don't even. I'm lost for words. But you powering through, and I mean, obviously, like you said, your mom is the one that pushed you to continue what you were doing.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like that, I think I speak for everybody. I think that just raised everybody's respect for you by a lot.
Well, thank you.
That is a very deep story, and wow. To go even deeper, so it's no secret that in your short time here, the 3 years that you've been here, that you experienced a lot of loss, and unfortunately, they were students. Brandon White, Phi Gamma Delta, and just recently Hayden Richhart from Sigma Chi, both passed away far too young. So how do you continue to just be that light in the community? Like I've never seen you break. I've never seen you be negative towards anybody. You've always just been there for everybody, and you never skipped a beat. And I just want to know, like, how do you do that? How do you continue to be the light of this community and spread it every day?
Yeah. Ooh, I am resilient to a default, right? And default in this term is not bad. It's just who I am. I don't know where I got it from. My mom, probably. Let's be honest, right? The woman who convinced me to not give up on my dreams, right? And never even questioned me when I wanted to do something else. I was like, "Hey, Mom, after all these years of performing, I'm supposed to do student affairs." Okay. You have to be resilient. And, losing both Brandon and Hayden, I'm very open about this, is in 3.5 years, I've lost 2 students that I directly knew. Like, this wasn't a general, these are people I advised every day, spoke to every day, knew. I mean, it was just, they are a part of my life, right? Even though they're no longer with us. So firstly, how do I continue to spread my light? I go back to being resilient. I don't know. In life, you're going to get so many things thrown at you, and silly things, drama. You're going to get thrown at you, funny things, sad things, bills, not bills, homework, bad relationships, everything. And I just always choose resiliency, because if I give up, the amount of people who will also give up is just far too much, right? Because I'm humbled every day to know that so many students look up to me, that if I'm not resilient for them, who is going to be, right? It doesn't mean that there's other people in their life that aren't important, but I have to be. You have to model the way. You have to show up. Secondly, when it comes to continuing the light, when you lose someone in your life, to anyone listening, the first thing you must do is honor their name. I know that both, Kim, Hayden's mom, and Marie, Brandon's mom, 2 resilient women, just resilient to the nth degree, they honor their names. I have a sense of duty to honor their names on this campus, to make sure their names never go away. At both Brandon and Hayden's celebration of life, both people, two of their brothers said, a human dies twice in life. First, when their physical body leaves this world, and secondly, when the last time their name is spoken. What keeps me going is ensuring that whether for as long as I'm here and far after I'm gone and far after I leave this earth, I will always know that Hayden and Brandon's name will be on this campus. It'll be in their chapters, right? It'll be back in their hometowns. It's hard to explain, and I don't think I'll ever be able to explain it, but the immense honor I carry with me, and very few people know how I really feel about it, it's an honor. And I would do it over and over again, right? Shepherding these young men through these young men, women, everyone, right? But shepherding these 2 chapters through their losses. I'm very transparent in sharing that it took me a lot to not quit after Brandon. It took me even more to not quit after Hayden. But you can't leave the people that need it the most when they need it the most. That's not what duty is. That's not what integrity is. That's not what honor is. You stay because you may be that one only person who will listen to them, who will pick up the call. I was the first person who knew about Brandon. I was one of the first people to know about Hayden. Right? What a burden, but what a honor. Right? That I was reached out to. I think what's also important about spreading my light and being so positive is we as humans and you all as students already go through so much. Homework, classes, relationships, interpersonal, intrapersonal, everything. If I can be a slice of solace in your day or in your life, I am fulfilled. My cup is filled. That's all I need. I'm good night. Right? Whether it's a 3-hour conversation with someone or whether it's knowing someone's last name. What I find so beautiful is when I walk around the Union, I see people, I always try to get them by the first and last name. And I remember this young Sigma Kappa who really changed my mind on a lot of things. Is I said, "Oh, hi, blank and blank." And she went to her president and she goes, "Oh my God, Nicholas knew my name." Like, how, what? And, the next time she met with me, I said, "Of course I know your name. It's who you are. You're important to me. Whether you know it or not, you're important to me." For everyone listening, I have something so rare that many people on this campus can't do. I bring you into this community and I shepherd you out of this community. I'm there on midday and I'm there on graduation. What a just breathtaking honor. And to bring it back to Brandon and Hayden, I never got to see them graduate. Does it pain me? Every day. But does it bring me solace that I gave them all the love I could while they were on this earth? You betcha. You betcha, right? That I could make them laugh, push them, challenge them, help them grow, help them work through things. Even though they may not have graduated from our institution, walking that stage or those aisles, we honored them and we'll continue to honor them. I say this to some students, and I'll say to you all now listening, I want everyone to know every morning when I walk into my office, regardless of how stressed I am or frazzled or even late, right? Every morning I walk in and I either say out loud or in my head, "Good morning, Brandon. Good morning, Hayden," every single time I walk into that office, whether it's verbally or in my head. I do it in my head when people aren't, when people are there because I want them to think I'm weird, but whatever. Every single morning. Good morning, Brandon, and good morning, Hayden. Someone has to say good morning, right? So that's what's important. You have to honor everyone around you, but especially those two.
Again, I'm just at a loss for words. I mean, I think it's comforting to know that, God forbid this were to happen again with any of us, that you are that person that will carry on our name and ensure that, we're going to be remembered and that we won't die a second time. And I think that's just it's not expected of an advisor to be like that. You just do it. That's just you. That's who you are.
Right.
And I think we're blessed to have you in our lives and to have you as an advisor. Because I mean, that's just so powerful. And I think you really do change lives here. And I think you will continue to until you leave. And for that, I thank you. And yeah, we really unpacked that right there. That was awesome, Nick. Thank you.
And I thank you, Jadyn.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think that's a super unique perspective about death. A lot of people are uncomfortable with the topic or don't really know how to deal with it, but I think that example of just remembering who they are every day and keeping them kind of alive, so to speak, in the spirit of yourself is such like a huge and healthy, almost coping mechanism for people that have experienced like very close loss in their own lives, to just remember that they're still there and they're still with you. I just thought that was awesome.
For all my Harry Potter fans out there, when they're talking about the Deathly Hallows and how towards the end, the last brother was how he greeted death as an old friend, right? Greeted death as an old friend. And as a leader, and I'm open about this, loss has been a very common theme in my life. Family, friends from high school, undergrad, students here. And, you know, like you said, Jacob, death is a very complicated thing. And listen, I am not an expert on it, but I'm someone who knows how to shepherd people through it because I've been through it. And people cope in different ways. People will laugh, they'll cry, they'll get angry, they'll say nothing at all. But in the end, you know, like I said, it brings me solace that I could help people through this and continue to. You know, there's only 3 Fijis left from the time when Brandon White was here, and they all graduated this spring. Come this spring, there's no one left. So that makes me feel old, but it also shows that time keeps going, and his name is still being spoken. Hayden's different. It's going to be a while for people to cycle out, but people are still feeling both losses, right? Whether it's recent as of Hayden or as long of a time ago as Brandon. But it's all about being there for them when they want to have that conversation.
Absolutely. All right. Our next question we have is, what is a moment in your life that completely changed your perspective and influenced the person you are today?
So I love this question. I have a lot, but I have 2. I'm going to share one that's a little more personal and one that's a little more centric to my position here at Embry-Riddle. So personal. Kindness exists still to this day. No matter how much darkness, hatred, frustration there is, I'm telling you, kindness exists. And for me, I always share the story that when I was younger, I went on a skiing trip with my family. I was maybe 8, 9 years old. And, I was in the kids skiing thing, and we were having lunch inside one of the buildings, whatever. And we were all sat in rows by age group, right? And there was only one age group under me that could ski, right? And we all get cartons of milk. And I remember getting it, and I open it just fine. You know, listen, 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, I'm good. I got it. And I turn around to this table behind me with the younger group, and I see this young kid struggling really bad to open up his carton of milk. No one around them is helping. They're noticing, but not really doing anything. And hey, you can't blame them. We're all kids. But a visceral reaction happened in me at 8, 9 years old, and I started screaming on top of my lungs. And I was screaming for one of the instructors to come over. They thought I was bleeding. They were checking me for blood, something. I just said, he can't open his milk. Please help him right now. Just screaming this. And he helped him open the milk, and then I demanded, my mom told me, I demanded that he sat next to me for the rest of the lunches for like our week left in the ski thing. And he did. And every single day, I helped him open up his carton of milk. As simple as that sounds, that is who I am. If I see someone who is in need or struggling, I don't care who you are. I'm going to help you. I'm going to jump into it, right? Whether you like it or not, right? And that moment, again, viscerally just started screaming. And the older I get, the more I realize, nah, man, that was just compassion. Like that was compassion. I didn't know how to explain it, right? I just screamed. And for me, that was so transformative and influenced to who I am today, is that if I see someone struggling, you bet I'm going to show up. I'm going to take the call. I'm going to make sure I'm there for that person, right? Ask for help and give help when asked. All my students know that, right? I say it every day. Secondly, a moment that completely changed my perspective, influenced the person I am today. Here at Riddle, the students, I have had some of the most intense and inspiring conversations with some students here that just made me go, you know what? I got 50 more years in me. I got 100 more years in me. And whether it's as something as passionate as I want to solve the issue of apathy in chapters, or as simple as, I have this brother or sister or sibling who is not coming around a lot. They're not eating as much that I'm seeing, and they're not really active on social media. I think they need help. And just seeing how those extremes turn out, and how the students here just When you all are on, you are on. You can't be compared to. You are not comparable, because the way you all come together is jaw dropping. And as Nagar Afshar, we all know, my boss and mentor, says, and her and I both say together, why do we have to wait for a crisis to come together? And she's right? And we're both right. Why do we have to wait for something so bad to come together? Why can't we come together all the time? And for me, I think it's having those conversations with you all. It's just you all don't realize that, but every day you change my perspective. You influence me. I probably won't say it to you, but you do, right? You all, again, I go back to one of the first questions of, what gets me out of bed? You all, right? You all keep me to want to stay here, to want to work here, to invest in you all, right? Investment is a two-way street, right? When you invest in you, I invest in me, right? Vice versa, right? So yeah, those are two things that I think have completely changed my life. One that's more older and singular, but secondly that's every day.
That's awesome. That carton story literally sums up who you are, and that shows that the type of leading you do is really almost built into you, and it's not like, obviously part of it is learned, but there's really a core piece of you that is a fundamental leader and has compassion for people, and that's definitely something that should be admired.
Well, thank you, Jacob.
Just kind of to sum things up, something that you tell us to do all the time is to define our leadership legacy and leave something behind. And we're kind of going through the transition of life right now. But as a perspective on the other side of things, do you think you have defined your leadership legacy?
Yeah. So funny enough, I will own that our community narrative I did create when I first got here of Fraternity and Sorority Life, define your leadership legacy. And grammatically, the question should be defined. But I'm going to flip it, Jacob, and say, have I defined it? Absolutely not. I continuously define it, right? I thoroughly and firmly believe you never have one moment in your life that's the definitive, yep, that's it. I've peaked. Oh, I peaked in high school, right? Or I peaked in college. Peaks and valleys. As a human, I have so many peaks and valleys. It's wild sometimes, but I celebrate both the highs and the lows. You have to celebrate both, right? And I think for me, I continue to define my leadership legacy, and in all ways, through music, through community service, through philanthropy, and through my students. My legacy is my students, and in the past, my performances, right? But my students. I've now been doing this for 3.5 years here and about 3 years at Wisconsin. And I cannot tell you how many students I've now worked with. God, no exaggeration, over at least 1,500 to about 2,000 at this point. And I cannot tell you my favorite thing, Jacob and Jadyn, is going on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and seeing all their successes. Seeing all of them live a life that they all dreamed of back when I knew them, right? My first IAC president I ever advised at Wisconsin, Joey Levin, though I don't speak to him every day, he knows that I love him to pieces. I think about him daily, and he changed my life, and as I changed his. He actually never thought of going to grad school. I inspired him so much that after I graduated with my second master's, he did the same exact program I did, Educational Leadership Policy Analysis. He just finished a second master's at NYU, and I think now he's going for his Juris Doctorate. When I first met Joey Levin, I would have never thought that, but I'm so honored to have been a small part of his life and see him grow. And all my students, all the way back when I first got here, my two first council presidents, Emily Dial of Alpha Zeta Delta and Craig Osborne of Phi Gamma Delta, two people that I love and adore, but I just love seeing them succeed, seeing them grow. So here in general, or just in life, my leadership legacy is you all. You all walking around, you are all my leadership legacy. As you all know, I don't I don't crave attention. I don't crave credit. I crave the results of my students and my colleagues and my friends and people succeeding. If you're all succeeding, I'm succeeding. That's my formula, and I'm sticking to it.
That's amazing. Yeah, the idea of leadership kind of being a lifetime like trial test run. Like you're never gonna have the light bulb moment of, oh, today I'm a great leader. It's leaving your leadership legacy is working every day to be a better leader, and that's what defines you. And I think you've done a great job at defining that for yourself. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on today. I think this was a pretty good conversation, a little bit of a longer one, but thank you, Nick. Thank you, Jadyn, for coming on.
Thanks for letting me co-host, Jacob. Nicholas, thank you for a really deep conversation and just letting the community and me and Jacob know more about you and your story. It was really good. It was really good.
Well, thank you to you two, and thank you to Jacob for bringing back this podcast. Now, I want to leave everyone, because you know me, I have to leave with a word, not the last word, but a word. You know, Jacob, you kind of alluded to it, that leadership is a continuous journey. I never expect my people to give 100% every day. That's not real. As a leader, if you walk in and say, hey, I can only give you 50%, give me 100% of that 50, and that is success. I'd sooner rather take 100 of 50 than 20 of 100. And I really want all the listeners to think on that. You're never going to show up at your best all the time. That's not realistic. But if you can give 100% of what you're able, capacity-wise, to give that day, you are succeeding, my friends. You are succeeding.
That's a great little blurb to leave off on. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.